Hi, I'm Mike McLean. Welcome to the Short Circuit podcast brought to you by Swift Aircraft. In this series, we'll be chatting with a variety of people from all walks of life, but who all have one thing in common: aviation. We'll discuss how and why they got into aviation, what or who inspired them, and what they would say to encourage young people to get involved. Flight fascinates many of us, and our guests will explain why they are compelled to look to the sky. Today's chat is with Ryan Judge. As a youngster, Ryan was a member of the RAF Cadets and also joined a charity organisation doing a Build A Plane project. Now working in the rail sector, he explains how his upbringing and his experience with aviation activity have influenced his career path. Obviously a driven and focused young man, Ryan demonstrates how the personal and practical skills that were encouraged and that he developed by getting involved in STEM activities became a useful part of his personality. But I'll let him tell you about it himself. So let's listen into the chat. So, first of all, good afternoon, Ryan Judge. I'm pleased to meet you and welcome to the Short Circuit.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch straight into it. So question one, who are you and what's your involvement with or has been with aviation?
I'm Ryan, 24 years old. I've supported the TSOG Build A Plane project and initiative. I've also been a member of the Royal Air Force Air Cadets for a period of time. I've had quite a bit of aviation experience from a young age.
How long were you in the cadets for?
I did cadets for approximately 5 years. Opened a whole host of opportunities for me. Really good grounding. I was brought up in the British Army. My father was in the forces, so it was a natural progression almost to go into the Air Cadets and get the experiences. It was a fantastic opportunity, and it's one of the reasons why I ended up in the rail sector, believe that or not.
Right, okay. So you said your dad was in the army. So what nudged you towards aviation? Was there a particular incident or a person, or what happened there?
Yeah. Well, growing up around the British Army, there was a lot of experience and exposure to aviation. So I think one of the earliest points was Aldershot. So my dad was in the British Armed Forces. I remember going past a gate guardian every day of the week, which was a DC-3 Dakota. And it was a beautiful piece of aviation. All the history involved, Arnhem, all that sort of stuff. But just going around the British Armed Forces was probably a real eye opener. So I went from Aldershot to Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, I got play and sit around in the Super Gazelles, the Lynxes, which were used extensively in Londonderry, Belfast, Strabane. So it was just being exposed at a young age to these machines of wonder, and that's what really got my juices flowing to go into it. And from Northern Ireland, moved back to Germany, and I remember our school was right next to the playing field, which was also the helicopter takeoff and landing zone. So there were Chinooks going in there now and again, and Pumas, and that was a lot more interesting than maths.
I'll agree with you on that one, definitely. Wow, so that's some heavy stuff for a kid to be around. I mean, did you take it for granted, or did it always give you a buzz?
Good question. I probably took it for granted. The exposure, especially being a child in the forces, you're moving around a lot, you're seeing a lot, you're getting a lot of exposures and experiences which most children don't. Born in Germany, moved straight to Aldershot, then from Aldershot, Northern Ireland, back to Germany. You see a whole host of experiences, and from an aviation perspective, you just don't get that exposure. I don't think in the civilian world to, do you want to go and sit in a Super Gazelle this weekend? Oh yeah, go on then. Let's have a look at one.
No, I think it's you've hit one of the big nails on the head. There is that young people at the moment don't seem to get much exposure to aviation unless they live right next to an airfield or an airport. It's only the airliner that takes them on holiday that they get to see. So in the forces, you get to see a different side of things. So that, I mean, I would have loved that as a kid, just running around helicopters and all the rest of it. That would have been good.
It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. And even like when you're driving around, you go to Gutterslow, which was a former Harrier base. You know, all
Mm.
the old buildings were still there, even if they're not there today. The history, and that's another one of my great passions, the history. It is so much, especially when you look at Germany, what happened throughout the war. There's so much to take in, and a lot of that does come back to aviation.
Yeah. At the moment, then you said you're in the rail sector. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is you do in the rail sector? And you also said that that's how you ended up there, is this involvement with aviation. So how give us that story. Take your time. Just how did you get to where you are?
Yeah, so 16 years old, I'm in the Air Cadets, and you get to that point in there, you go on to A levels, you go on to university. Well, you start thinking, do I go to university? I wanted to go into the Royal Air Force as a pilot. That was one of my ideas, but I wasn't. I'm good at maths, but I'm not hot at that super hot level of snap, snap, snap maths, which the RAF was so selective about these days. So my thought process was, where do I go now? But being in Doncaster, there is quite a lot of heavy industry still left. And with the Air Cadets, they had very good links to the wider community. So we had people coming in from all walks of life to give experiences and talks. So um, in Air Cadets, we learn a lot about principles of flight, engineering, that sort of STEM, real heart, you know, piece. But also in the Air Cadets, you learn things like leadership, which a lot of young people don't get exposure to until they're into their careers, into their early 20s, even later than that. So it gives you a real good grounding. And one of the opportunities came up to go to a company called Wabtec Rail. I just a nosy around, have a look around some trains and that. Um, I was looking around and thought, this is a piece of me. Heavy engineering, big engines, stuff that would be learned about in cadets. And I just said to one of the directors at the time, do you do apprenticeships? And he went, we do, but I don't have a clue how you get through the door. So he said, here's my email, send me your CV and I'll see what I can do for you. So that's exactly what I did. I wrote my CV, sent it in. I knew that I didn't want to be in the UK education system in that kind of rigid classroom environment anymore. And I wanted to go down a more practical route. So that's what I did. I went in, did an advanced apprenticeship, level three. But yeah, the air cadets got me through that door. The beauty as well is when I got through the door, when you're in that interview room, and they say, "Well, tell me something interesting about you." Well, I had quite a lot of interesting things to do. I talked about I'd done the cost for March with the air cadets, which, yeah, again, is not directly flying related, but it's showing that there's a teamwork, there's that level of building, across teams, working with other people. Also, things like doing shooting, stripping down rifles, putting them back together. You can talk about that side. There's the flying side, the aviation side, the engineering side, and they're all great things that employers love to talk about because it shows that you've got a level of interest. You're active, you're motivated. So yeah, that got me through the door. I did my apprenticeship, did it really well, and through the spirit of Ghoul, because it was an outside of curriculum activities, um, we had kind of meetings or yearly meetings where the senior management team, as an apprentice, we had to give a presentation. And one of my presentations was about the spirit of Ghoul. Did really well at it, and I got with my academic background from the apprenticeship with the outside of work experience. I got nominated for a load of awards, and I successfully achieved them. So I got the best apprentice in Doncaster and best engineering apprentice in Doncaster at the time, and that is due to yet again the outside piece of engineering, which was from the aviation side. Because I was taking a lot of the things I'd learned in my apprenticeship, I was helping the Spirit of Ghoul team with that, piece of work. It was a fantastic experience, and I can only say thank you to the people that allowed me to get to there.
Well, congratulations on the awards. That sounds something really well worth listening for, and listening for, well worth noting in your career. You've mentioned the Spirit of Ghoul, but you're also, while you were doing that, you were still at the Cadets as well. You were still involved in both
Yeah,
organizations.
yeah, I was involved at the time with both organisations, but then sadly the life balance comes into play, so I dropped the Air Cadets to support the Spirit of Ghoul. And to this day, I still have involvement with the Spirit of Ghoul organisation. They're a great team, great bunch of people, and yeah, really enjoy it. Really enjoy it.
Focusing on the Spirit of Ghoul for the moment, what was your role in that organization? And if I suppose what I'm asking is, so you had a foot in both camps, but you had to make a decision. So you made the decision to go with Spirit of Ghoul. What was the difference? What was the deciding factor to go for a privately funded charity thing rather than the structured government funded air cadets?
Yeah, very very good question. I'm not sure if you know, but at the time there was a massive issue with the Royal Air Force Air Cadets flying program. That includes the Grob 2, not Grob 2, the Vigilant Fleet and the Viking Fleet. They're both practically grounded. So that was affecting the flying side of the Air Cadets drastically. That was one of the reasons why I signed up to the Air Cadets, was to get, the flying aspect of it. And I saw that as the most easy way to solve that problem was, you want to fly, you join a group which is specifically aiming at flying. Because
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, the Air Cadets is a very good organisation for the kind of the full rounded picture. But when it came to that time period where they had the fleets of aircraft grounded, they were stuck in the mud. They didn't have the answers that they wanted to, and they themselves admit that it was a long drawn out process. There's a lot of players involved, a lot of subcontractors involved. I think it took them about 3 years, 3.5 years to sort out them fleets of aircraft to get them to where cadets could start flying again. So there was a lot of frustration in the air cadet organisation at the time, about the flying side particularly. So yeah, that kind of led to a lot of people looking external. There's quite a few air cadets at the time, which I was involved with in Doncaster, which joined the Spirit of Ghoul, and there was other initiatives started, Spirit of Doncaster, which was another one, and that was predominantly to do with getting a lot of air cadets involved. Also, there was a lot of red tape in the air cadets, as you can imagine. Big organisations put a lot of red tape in place for safety. Safety is paramount, but sometimes them red tapes do have a detrimental effect on speed of implementation, getting things done. So the small, nimble, agile model which Spirit of Ghoul had was advantageous.
So with the Spirit of Ghoul, what was your role in that organization and your thoughts on a build a plane project? Did you see it? Well, obviously, you did see it as a viable thing to do, but having completed that, looking back on it, how effective did you think that was at giving you steps forward in your career and guiding your future, if at all?
Yeah, no, no. Spirit of Ghoul was fantastic. So I was a volunteer, helping build and construct the aircraft. But with me having a level of knowledge with my apprenticeship, there were certain things that you knew already. But the beauty was the Spirit of Ghoul allowed me to teach people which didn't necessarily have them skill sets, which was a great opportunity to do that learning transfer. So taking people on board, showing them what you know, and vice versa. Because I think also, if you can teach someone something that you know, it demonstrates that you really do actually understand what you're on about. Because they'll ask the questions and say, "Well, what about X?" And if you don't know the answer to it, it means that you're not got that full roundedness. So it really helped from that. It also got me out of my comfort zone. So there was many experiences where we're going to shows, we're talking to people, we were putting together applications for grants and stuff like that. Things that I've never thought that I would support or would do. Also going to conferences, trying to get donations to complete the project. And it's testament to all the people involved to actually complete it, have the structure done, and achieve the aim, which was to get kids into aviation, engineering, STEM, and have an aircraft to demonstrate and prove that on. There's a whole lot of people that the project touched throughout, and I can only thank the people who supported me.
Mhm. From what I've heard from other people, so I've spoken to a couple of other team members and the organizers as well, and had direct contact back in the days, which is about a decade ago. And that project always impressed me with the far-reaching effects of the activities. You focus on we're building a plane, but it has so much else. That's not necessarily engineering, not necessarily geared towards pilots, not necessarily geared towards flying even, but things like, the writing, as you mentioned, the application work for grant funding and that sort of thing, connections, personal development, and speaking to senior people and royalty and whatever else that got rolled into all of that. I mean, it just seemed to be such an effective method of engaging young people that I was blown away by it. So it's been a major thing for me, and I'm guessing that it's been a major thing for most of the young people that got involved.
Absolutely. And like you're saying, it's not just that we built a plane. It was, okay, well, we need a website. Well, how do we build a website? I don't know. And then we'd all crack in and get involved. What media do we want to use? Like I said, writing the applications, building out where we want to be, and things like teamwork. There's soft skills involved as well as the hard skills, which is I can now go and rig an aeroplane. But there's the soft skills as well, which are transferable throughout
Mhm.
everyday life.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. So would you recommend to other youngsters? I mean, if you had a chance to take over mentoring of, if you new apprentices coming in, or just in your own community, would you encourage youngsters to get involved with the cadets, or to set up another scheme like Spirit of Ghoul, or just to get into STEM activities in general?
Yeah, for youngsters, I would definitely say get involved with this STEM field. It opens up an wide world, an absolute wide world. Whether that be the air cadets, whether it be this entity like the Spirit of Ghoul, or anything of that nature. It just it opens up so many doors. You look at the UK market for people with them skills in STEM. There's a massive void, absolutely huge void. The earnings potential, if you can get into them fields, are fantastic. But also it builds on problem solving. What you'll find is people which go far in organisations in life are natural problem solvers. And in science, technology, engineering, maths, it is a lot of we are solving a problem that we don't know the answer to. And we go forward from there. The beauty as well is it's a high demand area. So if you want to go and live in Australia, well, if you've got them skills, you can take them. You want to go to America, congratulations, they'll take you on board if you've got the right skills to go. That isn't necessary for every career avenue you go down. There's a lot of apprenticeships. So if these youngsters say, you know what, I've had a taste of it in the air cadets, I've had a taste of it in this, and I want to go forwards, they don't necessarily have to get into loads of debt, such as student debt, and you can quite well work your way up through organisations, through the apprenticeship routes, which are really, really strong way to go forwards.
Yeah. Do you feel much pressure from the schools, or parents, or family, or society to follow the academic routes, going school, college, into university, take on the big loan, get a degree, and all the rest? Did you feel you were being pushed into that? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how did you experience
Uh,
that, if at all?
yeah, so where I stand is I have dyslexia, so my English wasn't strongest. So the school had kind of two thoughts. This is how it felt to me anyway. Is you either go into university, which was the higher sets, and we'll
Mhm.
support you all the way to go to university. Anyone else was kind of B tier, and they weren't that interested in you. Meanwhile, when I was in military school, military schools were very much everyone has their strengths, everyone has their weaknesses, and they try to support them. So as I had a natural weakness, which was my English at the time. The school never really tried to support me to overcome my weakness. So they weren't interested in trying to send me towards that university route. They were just kind of, you do what you do when you leave school. They weren't very interested in me. Now, other people I spoke to, they are very aggressive in trying to push you down. That's the sales pitch of you've got to get A levels, you've got to go down this route. My parents, on the other hand, they were more of the opinion of just go out and see the world and see what works for yourself. I know my dad was very strong with the idea and we joined the British Armed Forces because he had a bias there. That wasn't an area I necessarily wanted to go down. I know his experience would be very different to someone joining today. But I didn't want to be sat in an office all the time. I wanted to solve problems. I was good at solving problems. I loved building airfix kits. I loved all that tinkering with lawnmowers and stuff of that nature. So it made sense for me to go down an apprenticeship route. And it's the best thing I've ever done. Because it exposes you to the real world. That's another thing I think as well, is a lot of people get a shock when they leave that education system at the age of 22, 23, and they're in the wide world now. And it's a very different question set of, okay, you got these skills, you got a piece of paper. Okay, can you do it though? A funny story, as an apprentice, or second year apprentice at the time, and we were working on a train and we were taking down a radiator. And there was these university graduates, and I mean they were smart. Oh, they were smart. They could cut mustard straight down the middle. Anyway, so we were going to go on dinner break as our technicians, but we asked the engineers, could you take the radiator down whilst we were away? All you got to do is undo the 4 bolts, and it will come straight out. They went, yeah, no worries. Anyway, came back, 3 of them there scratching their heads, and they just don't understand. They went, we just can't take the bolts out. Well, what do you mean? My mentor did at the time. Went, well, let me see what you're doing. So they put the spanner on the nut and they tried to loosen it. Well, it just kept on spinning because they didn't put another one on the other side. So they were there just spinning the nut around with the head. And I'm looking at it going, we've got 2 there with masters in engineering, and we've got another one there, really strong first in mechanical engineering. And I was taken back. It was quite staggering.
Yes. There's different types of smarts, and sometimes, okay, right. We'll move on, but that's a good story. I think it's a good lesson for life there. So fantastic. Okay, so looking to the future a little bit, what do you see coming? I mean, I know you're involved with rail at the moment and Spirit Ghouls in your past, sort of thing. But what do you reckon do you see coming over the horizon in your lifetime that will have an impact on, typically I would ask about aviation, but transport in general then, since that encompasses your rail work?
Yeah. I do think we're going to see massive drive towards artificial intelligence, that sort of thing. Really optimizing utilizations, looking how to get the most life out of these systems. I always think there's a lot changing in the world. What was competitive and smart 10 years ago is less competitive and less smart these years. And each organization is striving for better utilization of people, money, and systems. So we are going to see, in my eyes, in the next 10 years on, is the how do we make the most cost-effective platform system to do everything. You can see it quite currently with the Royal Air Force. We look at the Poseidon aircraft they brought online and the Wedgetail. They're basically 737 underside, so we got full interchangeability of the parts to help that kind of the life cycle cost. And that's something we also see in the rail sector, is that we are seeing, rather than loads of little fleets of unique vehicles, we are seeing vehicles which are interchangeable with each other to save on that life cycle cost.
That makes sense. Good engineering principles. Why reinvent the wheel if it's already been invented? So you mentioned the Poseidon, the Wedgetail. So are you still involved with the Air Force or involved in flying at all?
It's mainly a hobby. I keep up to date with current affairs. That's something probably from the Air Cadet era, is keeping up to speed with what's going on in the world. I think the world's changed a lot in the last 3 years, especially with the current geopolitical world and landscape. We're definitely seeing shifts. If we even looking at the aviation side, the things that were not thought about previously or been left for decades are now getting questions about. So if we look at the Tornado fleet, the German Tornado fleet, they are ancient. There's questions now going, well, what do we need as a platform going forwards? We're seeing a lot of changes in intelligence, surveillance, targeting, all that sort of stuff. So it's just the little drones that we're seeing. The world is changing, and aviation is going to play a major part in them changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're hitting many nails on the head at the moment. So you've been around a little bit. So you traveled around the world as a kid. You got a lot of exposure to a lot of rotary wing activity as well as some fixed wing. You've ended up in the north of England. You got involved with the cadets. You sort of sidestepped from there into the Spirit of Gould, and during that period, you also got yourself embedded into the rail industry and doing a bunch of work in there. For your age, your experience, your world experience is so much more than many, many young people that I speak to. It's do you feel that having that variety of experience, do you see it as all positive, or is there a burden that goes with that? Do you think you've missed out on anything because you've moved around so much?
Yeah, there's positives, there's negatives with everything. Positives is you mature very quickly because you've got to. So when you come into the workplace, when you're working with people which may be 20, 30 years older than you understand how to communicate well with them. That helped me a lot, and I've had a lot of good mentors along the way, especially in the rail sector to allow me to go so quickly up the kind of ranks. One of them was a chap called Al Smith. He was ex-forces, so it was very much like I was talking his lingo a lot of the time. He helped me massively. Jack, which is the runner of the Spirit of Gould, ex-forces. So it helped a lot. But on the flip side, there is when you come back to the reality of the kind of the civilian world where everyone's been together, lived in the same village for all their life, gone to school all their life, it's very hard to kind of break back into them circles because they've got a friendship established from when they were 5. So how do you integrate back in? That's what you find with a lot of kids which are, being in that service world where they've gone around and come out the other side. Is okay. What does that look like now? Because kids in that environment, they're always moving every 3 to 4 years, especially when I was in, my father was in. So everyone kind of knew the game. So when he came in, it wasn't anything out of the blue. It was kind of expected. It was a norm. But when you come back to Doncaster, in my case, it was kind of seen as a new person, and it was seen as almost a shock.
Yeah, I can empathize. Being the new kid in the block, it's a sink or swim type situation. Some people can handle it, some people can't, and they really struggle with that. But I think the evidence is showing that you're doing quite well. So the system's telling me now that we're getting short on time, so we come to the big question of the day. And that is, what is your favorite aircraft and why?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I narrowed it down. It's the Shackleton AEW2, which is a different one. You're probably not going to get. How I see it is the end of an era. This aircraft. If we look at it, the Shackleton bloodline is the Lancaster all the way through. We see the end of the kind of the tail dragging operations of large scale aircraft with the Royal Air Force. That was the last one. We see the end of the development line of the Merlin Griffin engine system, because that's where it went out. But also with the radar system as well, it was an ancient radar system. It served on the Gannet with the Navy. It served with the Navy on the Sky Raider. So it was an end of an era. It was an end of a lot of development lines onto it. And especially with the AEW2s, which were part of 8 Squadron, they're all named after characters from the Magic Roundabout, which is a novelty. So, yeah, and it's also something that I don't think people think of very much. They always think of the punchy fighters like your Gloucester Javelins, your Lightnings, your Phantoms, but this aircraft nearly lived through all of them. It served from the mid 50s all the way to 1991. So it had a long service life, and it was the end of so many historic lines, replaced then by the Sentry.
I'm glad you said the Shackleton, because it's an aircraft that had character. I didn't know about the Magic Roundabout. So do you have one in particular? Which character would you choose if you had a choice of having one? Which one would you go for?
Good question. So I built recently a Revell model, and I built Zebedee. So that's one I would go with. But it's a beautiful aircraft, and it's just a throwback to a bygone era.
That's fantastic. So you do realize you've just given yourself a new call sign then. So you are now Zebedee. That's it. There's no alternative.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's fantastic. Listen, Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I mean, we've never met before. This interview is set up by reference through other people that we mutually do know, and I must admit I'm extremely impressed, and it's just been an absolute delight talking to you here on the short circuit. I hope you've enjoyed it as well.
No, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Righty-ho. Well, Ryan, we'll call it quits there for the moment before the computer throws us off. And just in future, fly safe.
Thank you very much.
So that was Ryan Judge. I'm sure that you'll agree that he's a clear-thinking and confident young man. He's another example of how STEM and extracurricular activity can enhance the regular education system. The higher education system doesn't work for everyone and isn't always required or necessary to achieve success in your preferred field. And for those who struggle in some areas, they can often discover where their own strengths lie by participating in projects or with organisations such as the Cadets. By exposing young people to a wide range of activities and not just focusing on gaining a certificate, STEM can open up a whole world for young people. STEM isn't just about spanners and oil, and aviation isn't just about pilots and aircrew. And in terms of personal development, I think Ryan embodies the spirit of #inspiring aviation, as well as the spirit of Ghoul. I hope that you agree. Fly safe. You have been listening to The Short Circuit, presented by Mike McLean and sponsored by Swift Aircraft with the #InspiringAviation. This has been a Zoom Spike production.